Let's talk about a corporate management system so intense it was literally designed to chew people up and spit them out. They actually called it purposeful Darwinism. So what happens when a system that's built for so-called peak performance ends up just breaking the people inside of it? Let's get into it.
It all kind of started with this one quote. It's from a former employee, and it just paints this incredibly raw, human picture of what life was like inside one of the world's most successful companies. And it makes you ask, what on earth is going on in there to make that a normal thing?
Now, you've probably heard this story before. It caused a huge firestorm online, tons of debate about toxic work culture, but the easy explanation, that it was just a tough office with a couple of bad managers, that completely misses the real story. See, the truth isn't that the system was broken. The truth is way more chilling.
Okay, so first, let's just look at what people saw on the surface. All the visible signs of a culture that was under an insane amount of strain. The stories that came out painted a really clear picture. You're talking 80-hour work weeks as just the standard. Emails are coming in at midnight, and yeah, you're expected to answer them right then. And on top of it all, there was this constant cutthroat competition between colleagues. So the crying at the desk, that wasn't some rare one-off thing. It was a symptom of the daily grind.
So the easy answer, the one we all want to believe, is to just blame a few bad apples, right? A couple of power-hungry managers, maybe a department that just went totally off the rails. It's a comfortable explanation, but it's dead wrong.
And this, right here, is the crucial point that almost everyone missed. None of this was an accident. The pressure, the competition, the burnout, it wasn't a bug. It was a feature. It was the system, working perfectly.
All right, so let's pull back the curtain and actually look at the architecture of this thing. What was the logic that was intentionally built to create so much human misery? The philosophy actually had a name, purposeful Darwinism. And that word, purposeful, that's everything. The whole goal was to engineer an environment so demanding that only a very specific kind of employee could actually survive it. It was, literally, corporate natural selection, by design. I mean, listen to this quote from someone on the inside. It says it all, plain and simple. There's no ambiguity. The point wasn't to nurture talent, it was to find the people who could withstand a trial by fire, and to actively get rid of everyone else.
So, how'd they do it? Well, the machine basically ran on three core ideas. First, you encourage everyone to spy on each other. Second, you force them to compete against each other in a zero-sum game. And third, you just methodically fire anyone who lands at the bottom. And it was all powered by a couple of key tools.
And one of the most powerful parts of this whole engine was this seemingly harmless HR tool called the Anytime Feedback tool. On paper, it sounds fine, right? Give feedback whenever. But in this hyper-competitive pressure cooker, it turned into a weapon. Employees could secretly, anonymously send negative comments about their teammates straight to the boss. It created this incentive to tear each other down just to get an edge, and it fueled this paranoid culture of mistrust. You had no idea who was tanking you behind your back.
The second big piece of the puzzle was stack ranking. Now, this isn't just about reviewing performance. This is about grading your employees on a curve. It means that no matter how amazing the entire team is, someone has to be ranked at the bottom.
And the stakes here were brutally simple. This quote just nails it. If you ended up at the bottom of that curve, it wasn't a signal to get more training, it was a signal that you were on your way out the door. You deliver or you're gone, period.
So what happens when you mash together anonymous snitching with a forced ranking system? Well, in an environment like that, normal human things, getting sick, having a family emergency, they're not just life events anymore. They're performance liabilities.
And the stories that came out, they're just gut-wrenching. You had an employee with cancer who got put on a performance plan for not keeping up. Women who suffered miscarriages said they felt immense pressure to just come right back to work. In this system, there was simply no room for the messy reality of being a person. Your personal crisis was just a dip in your metrics.
So what do you do in a place like that? You adapt, you survive, and you learn a very simple rule, very fast. You do not show weakness. You hide your struggles, you don't talk about your sick parent, because in a world of purposeful Darwinism, any vulnerability is a death sentence for your career.
And this all leads us to the most critical and, honestly, the most unsettling part of this entire story. This is the part most people get wrong. Here's the kicker. While there were a few lawsuits for things like discrimination, the real systemic damage, the stuff that crushed people day in and day out, was all perfectly legal. We're talking about the insane work hours, the peer surveillance, the total lack of psychological safety, all totally above board. And that's the scary part, isn't it? A company doesn't need to do anything illegal to be a soul-crushing place to work. You can use perfectly legal HR systems and management strategies to absolutely exhaust, isolate, and burn out your entire staff.
And you can see the toll it took right here. The reported effects are just a roadmap of psychological distress, massive amounts of anxiety and burnout, a deep sense of isolation because you can't trust anyone, and a profound fear of ever speaking up because any complaint could be seen as a weakness.
So when you boil it all down, what's the real takeaway here? It's a story about how systems can be intentionally designed to sacrifice individual human beings for the sake of output.
This story is still such a vital cautionary tale. It proves a few really important things. A company can be toxic without being criminal. High performance can absolutely be engineered through fear, at least for a while. And maybe most importantly, corporate culture is never an accident. It's always the result of intentional design choices.
And that leaves us with one last, really uncomfortable question. This story blew up because it was loud and it was at a famous company. But if a system like this can be built at the very top, how many other offices are running a quieter, more subtle version of this exact same playbook right now?